Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again. I am Doc Rotten, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-host on the net. And tonight we are reviewing Lovecraft Country, Episode 3, titled Holy Ghost. Yes, we're getting a haunted house story. And it might be one of the better haunted house stories on television. But let's find out what the crew thought. But before we do, let's introduce the crew. Starting off with award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
I'm a ghost. I'm doing good. I'm glad that I didn't have to change wear after watching this recent episode. It's pretty creepy, spooky.
Did you get some, maybe some dry tinkles or something? Is that what you did? What happened?
Dry tinkles.
You said you didn't have to drink it. I don't know.
Dry. Is that a Lovecraftian thing? Dry tinkles?
It might be. We don't know yet.
I think it's a docism.
I think you need to get that checked out if you have dry tinkles.
Oh yes, you might. You might drink more water. All right. Also joining us is special guest host Christopher Slattery. He is the Slattman. How you doing, sir?
Good. I would say I'm gonna tip my cap to this episode, but I think tipping my head is a little more appropriate.
Nah, Artie.
Love it in elevator.
Oh my. Oh no, that was terrible.
Elevator.
All right. Well, what we do is we're going to review this episode. We're going to give our first impression. We're going to talk about it a little bit, and then we'll end up with our favorite scene. Hopefully we'll do this every week as it's come out so far, 3 in, 3 out. So this is good. This show plays on HBO, and it is from Misha Green, and based on a novel by Mac Ruff. This one is directed by Daniel Sackheim and written by Jonathan I. Kidd and Sonia Winton. The synopsis goes, hoping to mend her relationship with her sister Ruby, Leti turns a ramshackle Victorian on Chicago's north side into a boarding house, an endeavor that strokes neighborhood racism and awakens dormant spirits stuck in the house. Meanwhile, Atticus remains burdened by a guilty conscience as George's wife, Hippolyta, presses him for the full story of what happened in Ardham. Yes, it felt like from the previews that maybe this was going to be like a totally new episode, or totally forgetting what happened before. But no, it's still there. Even begins with George's funeral. Very, very, very somber episode to beginning, and Leti is looking to make things brighter by buying this house, but quickly discovers it might be haunted. So let's find out what our first impressions are, and still may be. Slattman, you're up first.
So this was not the episode I expected by going off of the trailers we got last week, and I think we got something better than what the trailers hinted at.
Nice.
I loved this episode. It continues all the great themes that the rest of the show has been giving us about racial tensions, and the horrors of being a black person living in our history. And I would actually say that it continues the theme of saying that that's scarier than the monsters and the ghosts. But going back, but moving on from that, the characters are still great. The development we've gotten from them is excellent, and the story is probably the most complete story we've gotten so far in this series, and it's excellent, and it ties so back to the what I believe is going to be the overarching conflict of the entire series. And the spooks were great, the story's great, the characters are always excellent, the cinematography was in the use of color was awesome, especially during the housewarming scene
Ah, yes.
of the party, and the the person who picks out the music for this show, they need a raise because they do such a good job with it. Yeah, it's great.
It's great. Yeah, this is basically kind of Leti's show. We get to spend a lot of time with her and stuff that's happening, but in the end, we do get a visit from Christina, which I'm sure made Christopher G. more happy. So let's find out what he thought. What was your first impression of the third episode of Lovecraft Country, titled Holy Ghost?
I think it's only appropriate that one of the things the ghost says is "get out," considering that a certain person is a producer on it. There's nothing more scary than a racist ghost. Let me just say that. Yeah, I love this. I mean, this takes all. This is, I think, you mentioned this is one of the best haunted house type stories on TV. I think this is up there with, some of the movies that have been made on haunted houses. This takes all the elements that we've seen in other haunted house films, from Poltergeist to, The Conjuring, a little bit of 13 Ghosts thrown in there. I mean, it's got a little bit of everything in it.
Haunting of Hill House.
Haunting Hill House. I mean, it takes all those specific things and throws it in there. And, and I think I've been trying to, even though I haven't read the original book, I have been looking at some of the information on it. And the book is just a simple story. It doesn't have all this sort of backstory on the things that are haunting people in this house. There's some really freaky moments in this that actually had me kind of unsettled, because it's not one of those things to where, a curtain blows or this or that happens. No, you get some full-on severed hand action, pulling covers off and people missing the bottom half of their faces peeking up from under your bed. I mean, that's I mean, there's some unsettling images in this. And then, at the same time, it's like the kids that break into the house that in the book, they're just scared to death in the basement. In this one, they get a little bit worse
scared
off.
to death.
Scared to death, yeah. Going down. But yeah, I loved every minute of it. I loved. I mean, it's interesting how, this is based in a lot of Lovecraft type stuff, spinning its own story from those and seeking inspiration from that. But this combines stuff from, there's one of the short stories called The Unnameable, that's sort of like a haunted house story. And then you have things like, there's a little bit of Reanimator. You have this sort of evil scientist that's, I guess testing on people, and you get to see sort of those elements. I mean, because there's some really freakish imagery of some of these ghosts that were people that were sort of victims of this scientist. So, but yeah. And, and evidently it's in the actor's contract tick to show his butt.
Yes.
In about every episode. So we saw his butt last time, and now we get to see his butt again. But, we get to see some little bit of action, which I'm kind of happy about, because I'm shipping those two people. I think they're great. But yeah, I think there's some great elements. It's sort of with the story. I mean, we still have the racist elements, which are very bothersome. It just makes me mad just seeing a lot of these things that are still happening today, especially when you have people of color that move into communities that are primarily white. In fact, the house they move into, the Winthrop house, it's being haunted by this racist ghost or whatever. Winthrop actually was based on an actual event, because there's I think it's called the 4600 block of North Winthrop, Chicago, which has been memorialized at the North Side's oldest Black community, and the first Black residents in that neighborhood faced a lot of realities of segregation and harassment from surrounding white neighbors. And so there was a lot of that specific issue where they even tried to do city restriction, not allowing people of color to move into all white neighborhoods. So I love this about every episode. We learn some new piece of history that we didn't know about. yeah, I love. I mean, I love everything, and even like simple things dialogue wise. You know, instead of when Tick shows up in that diner and asks her what she's looking into, she's like, "My house is haunted." She doesn't even build into it. She just tells him point blank, and so I love that. I love the important moments between characters, and we even have that little stinger at the end where, you know, the Malfoy lady shows back up.
Christina says okay.
And I'm sorry, I keep calling her Malfoy lady. But yeah, there's so many great moments that go from fear to racism to humor to scares to just, yeah, this has everything in it. And I mean, I feel like, I think I posted on my Facebook today, every episode feels like a different horror movie, you know, and it makes me excited to see what happens next. And evidently a lot of these things are different chapters in the book, which I can't wait to read after I've watched this series. But yeah, I love this episode. Is amazing. It has all the right scares in it. I mean, you could have, each episode you could have made a full movie. Just add another 30 minutes to it, and it'll be just as good as Conjuring films or any of those things that are out there. And it's got some great acting in it. You know, it's although, you know, like always, don't be messing with those Ouija boards.
No, don't do it.
They're nothing but trouble.
Don't do it. Oh my gosh, they really, yeah. And I think, were they in the attic this time? I don't know. I
They
thought
were
they
in
were
the basement. The furnace was down there.
That's right. It was just that Hippolyta was looking for her up upstairs, right? Because she finds that special room with the gizmo in it, and that was pretty creepy. That hallway, it was just a hallway, and I was like, ugh. Yeah, this was really, really strong episode. It was scary, it was spooky. It had a lot of great character moments. It had a lot to say. It was in its themes, and said it really well. And it I genuinely gave me a couple of my goose pimples had goose pimples. It was kind of creepy and scary. I think we mentioned in the pre-show the lady at the bed, you know, when
there's one you see in the back in the mirror too.
Yeah. But the one in the bed, the one creeping in the bed.
One in the bed is creepy. I mean, just to see, like, you see a hand come in, it's like, oh god, that's a severed hand. That's not even a full hand.
I wonder if this is going to be like Haunting of Hill House, where if you go back and watch it, you'll see other ghosts in the background of other episodes.
I bet you do. I bet you do. Yeah, I mean, just when, you know, the hands were creepy, but the lady creeping up on the other side of the bed was even more creepy. But and then we get we get a really great kill toward the end. But I think really what I liked about it, I think when this movie really sizzled, and that's a pun intended here, is when the sexual chemistry between Tick and Leti. It's throughout the episode, and it's an awkward, you know, they're awkward with each other, but the tension is just, it's palpable. And one of my favorite scenes is when Tree is talking to him, and he's asking about him, and he realizes what's going on, and he goes, well, if that's how it is, you better tell her that. Well, he does. But Christopher, there is a lot of great dialogue going on. That the scene that you mentioned where he sits down at the diner and she goes, yeah, my house is haunted. You know, we could have gotten a wide variety of reactions, right? There's who knows how you're going to react to something like that, but I love Tick's reaction. And he goes, okay, walk me through it, right? And she starts throwing all the stuff down, and he's like, wow, okay, you got it here. I really like that. I like it. It just made me like Tick all that much more. He is, you know, he's got just this respect about him for other people that, and, you know, can really gravitate toward it. It's a great moment. And there's a couple of moments between Hippolyta and it's not Montrose,
yeah.
That were really interesting. how they were acting with each other, and of course Tix and Montrose's actions with each other in the house earlier on. You realize that there's no way the two of them can stay in the same house for terribly long. And then they set up this great Victorian house, which looks fantastic and scary and creepy. And when you look at it, you go, "Yeah, that house is haunted." No doubt about it. That house is haunted. There's ghosts.
Yeah, it's not one of those things where it's just like, oh, it's just wind blowing or what. No, you know right away there's something wrong with this place. I mean, there's another great confrontation between Montrose and Tick that happens. Where he says, like, what are you going to tell him? Like a bunch of white wizards killed him? I mean, which is very funny. Although I love there's that moment where Montrose gets mad, and I love it when you have like things in your environment that sort of emphasize that anger. And there's always that train that goes by, the subway train or whatever. But you have moments like that, or there's just so many great. Also, the reason that she can't stand having Tick in her house is because he reminds her too much of her husband.
Yep.
Which just proves that even more that he's her son, or he's George's son.
Right.
But there's just so many great moments that, whether it be dialogue or interactions that sort of tie into who these people are, that just shows it's such a well-written show. The Misha Green, who's like spearheading this show, is just amazing. I can't say enough good things. This episode really hit it out of the park for me. Yeah,
and the cast is phenomenal. I mean, from Journey Smollett to Jonathan Majors to all the rest of them. I mean, every single one of them is
Journey is killing it.
She's really strong in this episode.
She is like been like the highlight of every episode, I think, so far for me.
Yeah, especially when she's vulnerable in this episode.
Oh God, that whole end sequence where she goes from being fearful to being scared, just working through that to being strong, all in the same freaking scene. Yeah. And she shows so many levels of emotion. She deserves a freaking Emmy just for her performance in this alone. Yeah. She's so great.
Yeah.
I loved her delivery of the line at the very end where she's like, I haven't heard anything about that.
Oh, yeah. But I don't think she did, though.
I don't.
Well,
that's what I was thinking. I was like, when that, I love the fantastical elements of this, but that whole, I guess hopefully people who listen to this have watched it, but that whole elevator where it's like, whoa, where's that elevator going? It's going below the house.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I love the little things of, you see those little what do we call those little markers, like
the
glyphs, like glowing glyphs that sort of tie into the whole Lovecraftian type stuff, the looking for Ardham or whatever. And there's like, then you realize, oh, this is going to some other level. So somebody, and there's like a whole freaking tunnel, and I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Where does that lead?
And there were more than 3 bodies down there.
Yeah, there was like all kinds of skeletons. It's like a freaking dragon's lair there.
That's right. That's right. Oh man. The circle of ghosts at the end was really powerful and spectacular, and that whole seance scene with the lady putting the markers on their foreheads and everything. This was a strong episode. There was a lot going for it, and it's
again, that's another thing. Like you go watch Poltergeist, and you have the what's her name, the lady in that comes in. They're like, your house is clean. It takes her like half the movie to do her thing, but this lady comes in, cuts that goat's neck right off the bat, just goes in, doesn't waste any time. I'm like, wow, that's so awesome.
Yeah, she found the problem pretty quickly. There's a lot going on with this, and then of course we get the Brathwaites to show up at the end, and they are manipulating things. They were. It wasn't a coincidence that they were directed toward this house. We find out.
Nothing is coincidental.
No, what are they up to? What is she up to? Because I don't think there's a whole lot of they in the Brathwaites now. The house collapsed in on them, right? So, what is she up to? What's she trying to do?
That's a good question. And again, I guess we're all going to be looking to see if she's in the same room as that guy that's the friend, the other guy.
Ah, yes.
But yeah. She evidently she's trying to. Maybe she's trying to complete what her father wasn't able to complete.
I think
the
so.
Immortality thing.
Yeah.
So, but they have to find those pages and.
Right. She's kind of saying that there's a lot more going on than even he was, because he basically was after one thing, and everybody gets one special power, right? And that was his power, was invulnerability, and it was interesting, to get that. Could have heard that a little sooner or somewhere else, but hey, it worked here. It felt right the way they delivered it. But yeah, so there's pages in the house somewhere, and if they can find those pages, it could help decipher it. But I have a sneaky suspicion that vault that he could only open, with the house being destroyed, I figure there's somebody might have found that book.
Well, somebody I saw online that somebody had pointed out that they might have taken a book from that house before it got demolished. So I'm wondering if that might crop up. Somebody mentioned the Necromonicon that they might have stolen that, but so I'm wondering if that maybe Montrose might have that, but
or maybe it was on George when he got out.
Well, yeah, I hope they don't have to dig his body up.
Yeah, I hope so too. But maybe they find it like in his personal things or something like that.
Yeah, because there's also the Book of Names, right? The Book of Names is what they call it.
Well, and unless Christina Brathwaite, maybe, unless that she brings him back to life or something.
Ooh, well, she might be able to do it, right?
I don't know. We haven't really seen anybody be brought back to life yet in this series.
Well,
so there's
technically,
no precedent.
Letty says that she died and she was brought back to life.
That's true. But did her father only have that ability?
But do we know that it's the father that had the ability?
That's a good question.
She says that you basically, only get one, power, and his was invulnerability. So that means somebody else.
Yeah, hers could be life.
Well, and I think that's what I love about like adaptations, how you can take the original material and change it up, because in the book, evidently George doesn't die during that whole episode involving Samuel. So that's kind of interesting that they've added that extra element in the same way that they've added extra elements to this story involving the haunted house, where a lot of these extra ghosts weren't there. In fact, the kids were supposedly locked in the basement area and went crazy in the book. So we don't. So it'll be interesting how then their adaptation, how they're going to deal with that, because I'm sure, because we're dealing with a lot of mystical, fantastical stuff. Yeah. I would think, maybe that, maybe something with the Ouija board might tie into that as well.
Yeah. What? Speaking of that, what name did it spell?
George.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. And it says, George is dead.
Is that what it said?
Or did you say George is not dead? I need to go back and watch that because it went by so fast. I thought it said George is dead. Is that, am I wrong?
I couldn't.
I'm going to go back and watch that. And by the next episode, I'll confirm that. But I thought it said George is dead, but it could have said George is not dead, which would make his daughter get.
I'm sure someone will post something about it on Reddit within the next 24 hours.
Yeah, because D freaked out. Dee freaked out. She was one of the kids.
She
there.
freaked out, and I don't know if it's just because I'm saying he's dead, but what if he's not dead? Maybe Christina brought him back to life and is utilizing him.
Maybe.
Considering that she can put spells on them and make them forget.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up tonight. We're going to give kind of a final thoughts and a favorite scene. But before we do, subscribe. If you like what you see, subscribe below. Hit the like button or the dislike button. And the bell if you want to get notified, and leave some comments. We love hearing your comments. In fact, I have a comment I want to read. You kind of touched on this, Christopher. But Goliath Warfare, excuse me, wrote in that the theory that Christina and her assistant are the same person, which is what I threw out there last episode, is sound. When Tick asked her if that was her boyfriend, she laughed. So Goliath is with me on this.
Well, I think they did change the character to a girl from the book, so that doesn't make sense. Because maybe with them being wizards, they could easily possibly transform. You use wizardry to make you think one thing and you're seeing another. I mean, they already did that with those little those rooms in that house. But,
yeah. There's a lot of things going on. I don't know, but I just thank you for the comment and keep it up.
Yeah, if you have any other specific things, let us know. Subscribe, listen. Otherwise, we'll send the Winthrop to haunt your house.
Nah, that is true. All right, let's do our final thoughts and favorite scene. Christopher Slattman, you're up first.
This show is killing it, and it just keeps. I feel like it's just the bar keeps getting raised with what they can do with this show. I really think that this episode is. It kind of surpasses what I thought this show could have, like the best of this show would have been, which I thought so far was season 1, but now episode 1, but now I think it's episode 3. I love these characters. I love this story. I love the messages that the show is bringing with it too. Everything is just great, and this is probably like the best self-contained story that they've told so far, and it just works. Everything works really well. Are we doing scores?
If you'd like, yeah, let's do it.
I'm gonna give this one a 5.
5.
Yeah, and
5 for those listening. Yes.
And my favorite scene is probably the housewarming party. It's shot so well, and it's got so much color and so much going on, but everything that's going on never distracts you from what's important. It's just, I think it's just a beautifully shot and beautifully directed scene.
Yep. That never ending picture of lemonade. Well, that probably wasn't lemonade. It was, well, I don't even know what it could be. Well, yeah, maybe I do. All right, Christopher G. Moore, give us your spiel.
All right, I'm gonna quote one of my friends that posted on my Facebook post.
Nice.
My friend Tiffany Warren said I may have peed myself a little, and I think I might have too. Although she said don't tell anybody, so now I told everybody. I love this episode. It's a self-contained episode. It could easily have been a feature film. They just expanded out to 20 or 30 minutes extra, and it would have been as good as any of the haunted house films that have come out in the last few years, so, or longer. I think this episode, it deals with so many different things. It definitely still delves into the racist aspect of that time period that's still very present today, still dealing with the issues with racist individuals not wanting other people to move into the neighborhoods. And it also does a really great job in delving into haunted house type stories, the supernatural, but telling, their own type of story. Which, I think, although I think one of the things that I thought was so funny, because they always say that, like, when you have haunted house movies, the white people always stay in the house. So it's good that we have equal time, for other types of people. So yeah, I loved this episode. There's so many moments that had me like creeped out, had me made me jump, and made me sort of like also made me mad, because it's like just the shitty people in this world that are just just shitty to other people for no reason other than the color of their skin. It's like they're no different than anybody else, and just but I love how they can have it be a part of the story, but it's not shoehorned in there. It's a part of it. It's part of the people that are there. And I love how they sort of worked in a lot of the Lovecraftian type stories, whether it be the Unnameable or Reanimator, which is one of my favorite Lovecraft stories, Lovecraft movies. And just the special effects involving the ghosts and stuff, and as well as just how the story plays out, even beyond that, where we get into the more, we get the return of the Christina's character, and also, what happened to the bodies. Cause I was wondering about that, towards the end. It's like, what are they gonna do now? You got these dead white boys in their house. But yeah, and so it sort of like opens this world even more, that there's like so many different things going on that they're tied into. And even when you see like the preview for the next episode, which feels like Indiana Jones type thing. So yeah, I love this episode so much. I think it's a very strong episode with wonderful performances. The Journey Smollett, I guess her name is. She's amazing. She continues to sort of impress me with every episode. Just her ability to go to different types of emotions, and because a lot of these type of stories, supernatural stories, can be kind of stupid or silly, but from the get-go, these ghosts aren't playing. It had me on the edge of my seat, and to that, even to the big thing towards the end. So, if I had to give it a rating, I would have 5 out of 5, because I think it's a perfect episode. As for favorite scene, it's gonna have to be that the severed hands pulling the bed off of her.
The sheets off,
that. I think for me, what's sold it is like, it's creepy enough when you see a hand come in, like it's gonna pull the sheets, but then when you see it's a two severed hands, it's like, oh my God. And it really threw me for a loop. And then when you have that little creepy face peeking up from the side of the bed, I'm gonna have a hard time sleeping tonight.
Yes.
I have a hard enough time like allowing my hand. I can't allow my hands or feet to go off the bed. But now I have to, like, I can't. I'm scared to look at the side of my bed because I'm going to see this little head creep up. But yeah, that to me, I mean, there's a lot of great creepy moments and scary moments, but that moment from the very beginning just sold me on this episode.
Yeah, that is one of the creepier moments. This is a great episode. It's a tight little kind of one and done, but yet it has the narrative going through it for our characters, and from the previous and leading into the next, sets up the mystery of these pages. The acting is phenomenal. The characters are great. The sexual tension between Tick and Leti, I guess, comes boils to the surface, but I think we still have more to explore. Facing what they had to face, outside the house is almost as scary that what's inside the house, or maybe it's scarier. having to stay, like I love that you mentioned that having to stay in the house instead of running away, it means much more than just staying there to fight the ghost. There's a lot more subtext going on than just that, and it's very important and kind of the theme of this particular episode. The effects are pretty spectacular. The ghosts are creepy, like the baby-headed basketball player. It's something I'd never seen before, and I wasn't really sure what to think of it, but it was odd and scary all at the same time. Great stuff. Yeah, I'll give it a 5 too. I was thinking 4. No, 5. Give it a 5. This really is good. And there's the I don't know, what is my favorite scene? There's a lot of favorite scenes. I am going to go with the diner scene. I just loved how that played out. I thought it was refreshing, right? It was refreshing to have that play out that way when somebody just says, okay, I believe you, give it to me. And, maybe, given what they've been through, it may not be a hard leap for Tick, but at the same time, it's not every day that somebody just drops that on you right in front of you and my house is haunted. Usually, ha 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 ha, yeah, sure, but no, he, and she just starts throwing it out there, and what a great way to, to do all that narrative, right? To give us all those details without feeling weighed down by it, because that could have happened. That was a lot of stuff to throw at us, but that was a great way to do it. It was so in the moment and with them, and we were learning in a very visual and shared way. And of course it has a moment at the end that is very personal for our characters and says a lot. There's a lot in that scene that says a lot. Leti is not her usual Leti self visually as well. She's usually very presented, right? And she's herself here and very comfortable around Tick now, and it's interesting, and I like that quite a bit. Love these characters, love this story. I can't wait to see more next week. Looks like it might push the envelope a little bit with that Indiana Jones in the ghost world type stuff, but we'll see where that goes. I'm ready 7 days away.
Hey, we've already seen so many fantastical things. I don't know why that would be push the envelope for you.
I don't know. It was like, where are they at? And where's this big? Okay,
we've seen people turn to dust. We've seen houses explode. We've seen monsters with multiple eyes that shoot blood out their gills.
We've seen a cow birth a monster.
Oh,
yeah, we've seen a cow birth a monster, and she didn't care about her, her blouse getting bloody. I mean,
her probably a blouse that's worth as much as a car back then.
Oh my gosh, that's probably what. All right, well there you go. There's our review of the 3rd episode of Lovecraft Country called Holy Ghost. I have a big thumbs up from all of us. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and I'm sure we missed talking about something important. Let us know what you thought of that, and most importantly, join us next week. Can't wait to talk about the next episode. Yay! Christopher, Slattman, thank you for joining me. This was a wonderful discussion.
Oh, I was looking forward to talking about this episode. So I love sort of us, watching it and then sort of like, talking about our love for it right after.
I know.
It's so nice to be able to talk about it like right after we watch it. So many times I watch shows like this and I go immediately to Reddit or go to like forum, like the IMDb forums or whatever, and it's just like I just want to talk about it with somebody. So this is awesome. Mm-hmm. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and this is different than we've done before. We usually waited a day or so before we do it, so this is fresh for Christopher and myself as well, and I'm enjoying it. So I hope you, the listeners, are as well. All right, guys, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.